This is the second day of systems with matrices. We're going to focus on 3 by 3 matrices. So our first example here, we have a 3-variable system of equations. So we're going to make the equation the same way we did when it was a 2 by 2. We're going to focus on the coefficients, right? +1, -1, +2. That becomes our first matrix. Then we have our variable matrix, and then we have our solution matrix. All right, so we have 1, -1, 2, 2, 1, -1, and -1, 2, -3. All right, my variables are x, y, and z. And then my solutions were -3, 0, and 7. So we're going to start this by finding the inverse. And if you recall, when we were looking for the inverse, we would use Desmos. Okay, I want to be able to see it. Actually, let's go this way so I can actually see it. All right, so new matrix. Bump it up to a 3 by 3. And we'll enter in our numbers. -3. Okay, so there's our matrix, and we want the inverse. So we're going to hit A to the -1. All right, so it's a little yucky looking. Let's see, you know, I'm actually going to screen grab it so I don't have to write it all out. Okay, there we go. All right, so this is our inverse, and we know we're going to multiply it by the solution matrix, the -3, 0, 7. So remember rows by columns, rows in the first. Oh, can't see that that's a 5 there. All right, and we have our single column in the second matrix. So it's going to be -1/2 times -3 plus 1/2 times 0 plus -1/2 times 7. Then we have 7/2 times -3 plus -1/2 times 0 plus 5/2 times 7. And then last but not least, 5/2 times -3 plus -1/2 times 0 plus 3/2 times 7. All right, and we know from here we're going to start doing some math. Let me switch this to be page 1. All right, so -1/2 times -3, we're going to have +3/2 plus 0. And then -1/2 times 7 is -7/2. All right, next line. 7/2 times -3, so 7 times -3 is -21/2 plus 0 plus 5/2 times 7. 5 times 7 is 35. And then for our last one, 5/2 times -3, that's -15/2 plus 0 plus 21/2. All right, so we have 3/2 plus -7/2, -4/2. -21 plus 35 is 14, and -15 plus 21 is 6. All right, so my final answer, -2, 7, 3. All right, go ahead and try this one, pause it, and check your answer. All right, so check your answer here. We should have had 2, -1, 3. All right, there's something called an augmented matrix, and that's where we combine the two matrices together, and I include the last matrix here as an additional column. Right? So when we have a system of equations, we can make an augmented matrix by combining the coefficient matrix with the solution matrix. So let's go ahead and write this augmented matrix. So really, all I'm going to do is go all the way across this time instead of stopping with just the coefficients. So that's a +1, a +1, a -3, and then a -1, +2, a -3, a +1, and a 4. We have a 3, a -7, a 5, and a 4. Right? And that's all there is to creating an augmented matrix. What we could do with an augmented matrix is solve the system doing something called reduced row echelon. All right, we could do it on a graphing calculator, and we can do it on the Desmos calculator. So when we do this, it will create what we call the identity matrix, and then we're left with the last column being our solution. So that means if this was the first spot was x, x would be -2, the second spot y would be 7, and the third spot z would be 3. So here's how we would do it on a graphing calculator if that's the way you were choosing to do it. So you would enter the matrix, right, the way we normally do, and then you're going to go to the math button under matrix, go to RREF, select the letter, and hit enter. Same thing we're going to do for Desmos, right? We're going to enter our matrix, we're going to see the button that says RREF, and we're going to choose what letter matrix it was. So let's set up our augmented matrix first, and then we're going to use the Desmos calculator to find the solution by doing reduced row echelon. Okay, so there's our augmented matrix. All right, so now it is a 3 by 4, right, because now we have a fourth column. Oops. All right, let's make sure we have that all entered correctly. That looks good. So now if you notice down here, we have the button that says RREF. Hit that, choose A. So our answer looks like an identity matrix, right? 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, and the last column is our solutions. So that's -2, 3, and 1. X was -2, Y was 3, and Z was 1. All right, this is the work I would need to see if you were doing this problem. So go ahead, you try this last one, pause it, and then you can check your solution. Alrighty, so X was 7, Y was 6, and Z was 3. Right, if I looked at my answer here, we had the identity matrix and then our solutions. And that is our second day of matrices.